Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. Role play level of concern later in the hour, where one of us will play the state of Arizona, because I guess everyone's buzzing that maybe the Coyotes are finally going to leave Arizona.
No, I bet you they found a piece of property, Hazy B. I bet you they did.
I agree.
Hey, I give credit to Marty Walsh because he just gave it to Gary about that. He said, my players are out there, and it's like, you got a college rink. It's not acceptable, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just not acceptable. I get it. But it's almost like it would be acceptable if their rink was going to be ready for the start of next season. But what are they going to do, continue to play there?
Oh, yeah.
It's a gong show.
No disrespect to Arizona.
But, like, that's the thing. You're right. If there was a light at the end of the tunnel, I've been bullish on this because I think it could work there if they put the rink in the right spot. They just haven't. When I used to play,
that's the question. How haven't they after all these years? I don't know. Like, I go out to Arizona to see relatives every summer. I don't know where the rink's supposed to be, Scottsdale, North Scottsdale, but how they haven't put one there. They built a new rink, but they put it in the wrong place.
Well,
how dumb is that?
And again, it's not even about the rink. Sure, that's a part of it. You need stable ownership. They always have owners coming in, and then 2 years later, they're like, yeah, we're bankrupt, or we're nice.
Guys arrested.
Like that's, it always starts at the top. Like every organization, it's about ownership. It's about stability. It's about financing. And clearly, in certain markets with certain sports, you have to have a very well-run operation. You got to win games. You got to bring hope. You have to have a cool rink. You got to have game ops. Like in traditional spots, it doesn't matter. Like the Leafs up here, it's always going to work. The Canadians are always going to work in Montreal. The Cowboys will always work in Dallas. Yankees will always work in New York. Those markets are totally different. Now, those are the markets that should have state-of-the-art everything across the board, should have ownership that is absolutely rabid about winning and are freakishly trying to do that because they do have so many loyal fans who are willing to spend money and time on their operation. But generally it goes the other way because they take advantage of that or they take it for granted. But, yeah, it seems like maybe Salt Lake City, do the Coyotes go there, but I'm not sure that's what the owners want. It's complicated. Dregs will join us in an hour. We'll see what Darren Dreger can tell us about that. The Leafs are back in action with Dallas in town tonight. The Oilers lost last night. Elias Lindholm, though, with 2 goals for Vancouver. They keep chugging, right? They keep chugging. Kuzmenko had a goal last night for the Flames. Yeah. So first impressions are important in this league and sports in general, and I would say they showed up pretty well for those 2 guys anyway.
Kuzmenko, I'm not going to diss the player. But I know the routine where he will be on fire and he will be working and he will be scoring. Just like he did in Vancouver. He's going to do the same thing in Calgary. And I think he's a talented kid, okay? But I could smell this one a mile away of what's going to happen because it happened in Vancouver. And I could just see it happening now. Everyone's going to be just like, man, sniper. Maybe he's a 40-goal scorer. And then you're going to be in a situation where he's sitting beside somebody in the press box, and you're like, how the hell did he get up there?
Well,
I hope he doesn't do that. Maybe he's learned from Vancouver. But I've kind of seen that routine enough where I'm like, I know what you're doing, Kuzmenko. I hope he doesn't. It's
a good opportunity for him, but you just the one thing, he's 28. He's not 22. So that's this is the other thing. Like, you can't get lulled into like falling in love with the player coming in and all of a sudden like he gets this massive extension. He's part of the solution moving forward. At 28 years old, yes, it's a new lease on life for him getting a different change of scenery. We still got to buy into the system. You're right, because if it goes south and he's not, and he checks out defensively and all of that, he might be, eating popcorn up in the press box with the scratches.
It happened in Vancouver. Like, it's pretty clear. Rick Tocchet just had no interest. Was not interested in playing him. And Edmonton lost last night. I'm sure Rick was happy about that. I think Rick said, he's like, I don't want them to break the record. Like, he was on that team, I think, in Pitt, 92.
Dude, it's just like the Miami Dolphins. You know how many times they hammer beers? Like, they hammered beers when those guys in New England were close.
I love that. It's your record. Why would you want anyone to pass you? It's your record. You don't want that. I have no problem with that attitude. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, here is a longtime NHLer, NHL coach, Stanley Cup winner, back on Overdrive here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's Craig Berube. How you doing, Craig?
Good, guys. How are you?
We're doing well. Thank you for doing this. We were just talking about new players showing up last night. Kuzmenko in Calgary. He had a good start. Lindholm in Vancouver had a good start. Monahan made his debut with Winnipeg. As a coach, when you bring in a guy that's got a ton of talent and maybe the team gave up a lot to get him, like what's that transition like in trying to make his life easier and make sure that he's effective early on when he's joining a new team?
Yeah, for sure. I think you try to put him in a good situation, right away and try to make him feel comfortable and let him play his game here for a bit and then, redefine it how you feel where he fits in, But I think first and foremost, the players, the coaches, everybody, they just want new guys to feel comfortable and, kind of feel things out a little bit. So I thought, obviously Lindholm had a good game last night with 2 goals and, Kuzmenko got a goal in Calgary, so they played pretty well, I thought.
Chief, we were talking about him and what happened in Vancouver, and it was like the 39 goal season, and then it was some press box time after an inconsistent start. Like, do you think when the idea of bringing up the idea of the press box to him or any of these kind of modern day players that like would frighten them? Because it used to, I don't know about you, but it would scare the hell out of me back in the day. It's like, if you don't get your act together, you might not be playing. Like, do you still think that would scare the hell out of players these days?
Well, I think it does to a certain extent. I mean, depending on each player, I would say, if he's really concerned about staying in the organization that he's at, or if he moves on, he moves on. I think back when we played, we were worried about our jobs more than anything. Might not get another opportunity. So if we sat in a press box, we made sure that when we got back in there, we're going to, and I'm not saying that they don't either, but I think there's a little bit less fear factor nowadays because they're going to get an opportunity to play somewhere else if it doesn't work out where they're at.
Craig, we were talking earlier about managing ice time. For example, say you play a game on a Wednesday, you don't play again till Saturday. Would that factor in how you manage your star players and the ice time you gave them based on, your opponent, based on, kind of how you wanted to manage the game? Did you feel like you could give them an extra minute or two because you weren't playing for a couple days?
Oh, definitely. I think you got to look at, a lot of different scenarios there, but you're right. If, you're not playing for a couple days in between games, you can get a little more out of your top guys if you need it. But I think you got to feel the game out and how it's going, who's playing well. And, if you got all 4 lines rolling, just keep rolling no matter what. But, I think depending on the game, you're down in the game, you're probably going to use your top guys a little more to try to get back into the game with some goals. So, yeah, but for sure, if you're not playing for a few days, you definitely can use your top guys a little bit more.
With Craig Berube, and a big topic of discussion in Toronto is depth scoring right now because, Matthews is scoring, Marner's scoring, Willie's been great, Tavares has got a couple goals in the last couple games, but Bertuzzi's got 1 goal in his last 28. Max Domi's got 1 goal in his last 18, and Matthew Knies has no goals in his last 16. Like, those are staggering statistics, and that's your depth with Yarncroke out, a fourth line that's predominantly, physical and skating and trying to get them off the ice effectively. Like, how would you approach trying to trigger more depth scoring? How can a coach maybe do that?
Yeah, it's tough. I think, you're really putting stress on your top guys. When you don't get that secondary scoring, it's extremely important. And, I think that's, obviously an issue right now in Toronto. But, you just got to try to, work with these guys of what they could do a little bit better to try to score a little bit more. It might be a couple simple things that they could go to the net a little bit harder, be around the net a little bit more, just get some dirty goals, things like that. Or, maybe try moving around on some of the playing more with the top players and trying to, give them some confidence and find some scoring. I think there's a number of different things you can do. It's a lot easier when you're there and you're seeing what's going on a day-to-day basis to make those decisions. But there's definitely things you can do. But in the end, it's down to the player. He's got to play better, and if you need him to score a little bit more, and that's why you brought them in, well, they got to do their job. That's their job to do it, and they got to play better.
Craig, it's a lot different in the game nowadays compared to when you and I were playing in Calgary and, even before that, the generation before. How is it different in handling today's athlete? You mentioned there's guaranteed contracts. There's guys that know that they can go on to the next team type of thing. What is, as a coach, how do you kind of balance that act? Is the only thing that you have is ice time? Is there anything else that you can do to motivate and maybe get involved with the player to get them to the top of their game?
Well, I think it's communication more than anything, Noodles. I think you got to really communicate with these players, and even before the season start, the summertime, just identifying their roles and what we need from them on a day-to-day basis, night-to-night game, all that, just what we need from them, and really defining their roles for them. They want information. They want to know why. And I think, giving that daily to them is really important. And I get you might have to take ice time away at times, and that's part of it all. But the communication part is really important. Back when we played, and even before that, when I started out, there wasn't a whole lot of communication. You figured it out on your own. Your teammates would help you out, but there wasn't a ton of communication by the coach.
Chief, what I don't understand, I do understand the idea of communication, because that's the lingo where these guys want a communicator and this and that. But when they ask the why, I find it somewhat confusing, because if you said to a player, I need you to be dependable, I need you to work hard every night, when the puck comes up your wall, I need it to be out every time, I don't understand how a why could come after that. It's like those are the expectations of playing in the league.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that they're going to say why because you want the puck out on the wall every time. I think it's just something that you got to keep reinforcing to these guys. Like a lot of them, when you got these young players coming up from junior and college and different places that they played, the details of the game, they didn't need them. They didn't have to have them night in and night out. They're the best players, a lot of them in their leagues. And it was, it's all about scoring, right? And I think that's the mindset coming in from junior and college, is to score, score, score. Well, that's fine. We need you to score, but we also need you to do other things. And you got to teach these guys. You got to mentor them. That's a big part of it. Coaching is mentoring these players into playing 200 feet, doing the little things right, like just simple things. You watched Vegas last night against Edmonton, and, Edmonton, their goalie Hill played well. But if you look at the block shots that Vegas had, 26 in the game, that's why they win the game. They paid the price to win. And it's little things like that determine if you win or lose a lot of nights. And that's why Vegas won last year. They do all the little things right, the details of the game, and they pay a price night in and night out to win hockey games.
With Craig Berube, how much of that just has to be ingrained in the player, like the DNA of the player, Craig, to do that?
Well, for sure, that's a big part of it too. I mean, there's a lot of players that just in them, and they do it on a nightly basis, and that's part of their game. But I think you still got to reinforce it to everybody, and we need everybody to do those types of things to win. I really believe that. If you don't have everybody on board doing it, it's hard to win.
When you took over in St. Louis, you guys obviously went on a historic heater, considering where you were early in the year. You go all the way to the Stanley Cup final and win the Stanley Cup. I'm sure you had a bunch of runs, where you won 8 out of 9, 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. If you're in Edmonton now, you're Chris Knobloch, and your team just lost for the first time since November. You've won 16 in a row. And the Oilers played well last night. It's not like they didn't show up. But is it in the back of your mind as a coach, like, okay, we got now the work starts again, because I got to make sure these guys, don't just rest on their laurels because they just won 16 in a row?
Yeah, and I go back to Edmonton. The break kind of happened at a bad time for them, I believe. Winning the 16, and then they get a break for a little bit, and then they got to go play Vegas in Vegas. It's tough, but they're playing well. They played well last night too. They didn't come up with a win, but they played well. And I think as a coach, you just keep, talking about what you need to do on a nightly basis. Just take it day by game, just reinforce the good things that they've been doing and keep doing them. And, you're not going to win all the time playing well and doing the right things, but you'll win a lot of times if you keep doing that. And they just got to keep playing the way they're playing. They don't need to change anything right now. And I think as the coach, you just reinforce that. It's one game. They played pretty well, but they lost. Just reinforce the things they need to do well.
You watched a lot of teams now throughout the league. Obviously, you pre-scout. You know everybody in the league. You look at a team like Edmonton who, we'll say in the last 16 games turned the corner as far as some of the details. Is that just a maturation process? Is that a desperation because of where they were in the standings, a little bit of both? Or did they have to go through the process of realizing what it takes to try and win in this league nightly? And it's the small details, not just trying to outscore a team 7-6. Is that kind of a process that a team has to go through to get to that next level to be a contender?
Well, yeah, for sure. I think that they obviously went through some adversity early on and realized they got to change things a little bit, and they've been doing that. They've been playing good defense and doing little things right, but also that they're using everybody, all four lines, all 6D, are really involved in the game. That's a little bit new for Edmonton, in my opinion. I think they played McDavid and Draisaitl a lot, Hyman and guys like that. But I feel like everybody's more involved and they're playing much more of a team game. There's way more buy-in from everybody because I think they feel a big part of it now. They're being used in a different way. And like I said, their goals against, they're down. They're playing good defense. The goalie's playing well, and they're, scoring some goals.
Always great catching up with you, Craig. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll do it again soon.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Enjoyed it.
You got it. Craig Berube joining us here of the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander, in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. Well, you heard Kadri last night, right? A pack of hyenas can take down a lion, which is a great, great saying. And
it is.
Patrick Waugh had his saying, a couple of nights ago where I think he kind of, that was like a Pat Quinn line, right? But he used different animals or different.
Eagle or a duck.
Eagle or a duck.
I was laughing out loud because I thought the same thing. Because you say, what do you have a house?
It's a
heart
rat
of a
or a moose or something.
He always said, it was a pregame speech, and he said, you can be two things, an ant or a termite. What do you want to be? He's like, termites hang around and they fight and they battle. Ants scatter.
Did you always have the heart of a moose or the heart of an ant? Like, I can't remember. There's all these sayings. I was dying laughing because it was such a unique comment by Patrick Waugh, and he was right. Where he was talking about the Horvat fight, right?
Right.
And
yeah, with Benoit. Yeah.
Yeah, standing up for his teammate and good leader. Like,
he could be an eagle or a duck, and he's an eagle. I like that, man.
He's an eagle, man.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Pat Quinn would like that one, I think. I think Pat would have used that one.
A lot.
Yeah, it could be an eagle or a duck.
Be an eagle.
Funny.
Yeah, you got to be an eagle. How could you turn down the idea of being an eagle?
Just the vision of a duck, like a duck just standing there doing nothing.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
that was great.
Just floating along in the water.
Yeah, just out for a paddle, just having a good time. Or I guess an eagle, an eagle's going to attack, so be prepared. All right, so we got the Leafs in action tonight. We get the Raptors in action in Charlotte. They're actually a big favorite, which speaks to how awful Charlotte is. Wow. They're like a 7.5-point favorite, which is absurd considering the Raptors, have lost a lot of games in the last month and a half.
Dude, that Charlotte team, man, like, I know MJ was there for a while, but it's like, how did they never turn a corner?
It's never happened. Like, ever.
Dude, I know. Like, can you remember the last time they were good?
No. I don't think they've made the playoffs more than once or twice in the last 15 years, if that.
That's scary, man.
Yeah, and not only do they miss, like, they are horrendous, right? Like, every year they're picking in the top
Is there no mantra from the owner? Like, is it a single owner? We should look into that. Is it a corporation?
There was Michael Jordan was the owner for the longest time.
I know, but he was a minority owner, wasn't he?
No, I think he owned like a big – he was like the guy. Like, he had the power to make calls. I don't think it was 100%. I don't think he owned the whole thing, but he had a big, big chunk. Like,
Dude,
he just
it cost
sold
him his friendship with Charles Barkley, because Barkley came out and just said, he goes, this guy's the greatest player of all time, but he can't run a team. And MJ, I guess, has never talked to him since.
Right. Like, what a bitter guy, man. You're the greatest player ever. Hates Jerry Krause. Now he hates Barkley.
But they, those guys are competitive, and they've got long memories. Like, that's a guy who takes receipts. Like, it's Pat Quinn took receipts on, who was it
Stan
again?
Mikita,
Stan Mikita, 13 years later.
That's
Got
an
him.
eagle. That's an eagle for you. He wasn't going to
Not
sit around
being
and be a duck.
That's not being a duck.
No,
No.
You're not going to be a duck. No chance. All right, role play level of concern coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
You can never, ever ask me to stop drinking. Do you understand?
I do. I really do.
All right, role play level of concern brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From touchdowns to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice cold beers, always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. Role play level of concern. We love it. At Boston Pizza. Doesn't get any better than that. All right, This has been a consistent theme throughout the afternoon. All right, we're going to roll it over, but, you're going to play the role of Brad Treliving, the GM of the Maple Leafs. What is your level of concern? Your lack of depth scoring will not be improved internally.
Play it.
You can never, ever ask me to stop drinking.
I mean, isn't it Nick Cage, because we're at this point of the season and we're still kind of looking for it?
Yeah,
how many
it's 48
guys
games.
how many guys at 50 games just snap out of it and say, I'm going to start lighting the lamp? You got to keep attempting to. You got to make changes to try to get it. But I don't know. Sometimes you get to this point in the season, it's like, it's just that's the year you're going to have. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it. That's
I agree
why
with you.
Nick Cage, man.
I agree with you. I think it's imperative. You got to pick. Like, which one are you going to be? Are you going to start cheating and try to win games 5-4, or realize scoring might be an issue and you got to win 2-1? Which again speaks to the defensive issues, the lapses, the mental mistakes. They've got to stop. Like that should be expected to stop, right? Because you got to pick one or the other. If you're not going to be, a top 3 or 4 offense in the league, top 3 or 4 power play, then you better defend. Better be physical, right?
Yeah.
If you're in it to win it, you got to pick a path.
Well, you got to find consistency of what your team is. That's the one thing. And I know Sheldon, I don't want to say he's taking heat, but he made the comment of like, okay, 50%, of the games we played to our potential, 50 not. And the question is, well, what is your potential? What is your team? And, can you be top 3 in your division? I think so. Can you be a playoff team? I think so. But are you top tier? Like at the start of the season, we were all picking like, okay, they can win the Atlantic this year. Doesn't look like that case right now unless they go on a ridiculous heater and Boston tanks. But, what is your team? And play to your identity. And I think that's, talking to Craig Berube last segment, he's, talking about, Edmonton trying to figure it out, teams trying to figure it out. Like, I'm sure he went into St. Louis when they went on that run and said, okay, I'm going to define a role for everybody, play to the maximum of your capabilities within that role. Well, what is the role? What is Max Domi's role? What is Matthew Knies? They've got to figure out what they are on this team and play to that, their capabilities. And right now, there's a lot of question marks with the Leafs right now, more than you expect.
And here's the thing about that comment from Keefe about the 50%. Naturally, he's going to point to the good 50% and say that's who we really are.
Right.
What if you're actually the other 50%? Right? Like if it's 50-50, how can you guarantee people you're actually the good 50, that's actually who we are. Like if it's 80-20, I'll say, yeah, you're right. The 80%, that's who you really are. The 20%, that happens 1 in 5. If every other night you resort back to the bad 50, then that's who you are too.
Dude, when the coach says that, Hayes, to sum it up, when he says we played good 50% of the time, you got a lot of questions.
Exactly.
And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Hence Nick Cage. Noodles, you're playing the role of the Calgary Flames. What is your, or even Flames fans, I guess you could include in this. What is your level of concern that you could be years away from being competitive again in the West?
I'm going to say Rick Bushwood. It's
6 Busch Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
All right.
Because there's some framework there. And the one thing, if Craig Conroy continues with his pathway, they've had some young players push through. Now, if he continues to move players out, like they got a good haul for Lindholm, if they end up doing that for a couple more players, if he stands by what he said he was going to do at the start of the season, now the retool has started and you add players, you're not going to trade everybody. But I think it's a scenario where you've got some players there that could still play. Like, I thought that was Huberdeau's best game as a Flame last night. He looked engaged. He got some points. Like, he was kind of – he's playing there regardless. He's playing there. Nazem Kadri's probably playing there. I don't know. But I think – you can retool on the fly here, still bottom out, still do, what your plan is moving forward. But you're not San Jose. You're not going to be, they're just not going to be San Jose, unfortunately.
Right.
Like you're not going to be
bottoming out completely.
I think there is a happy medium of what they're trying to do where you're cycling through some contracts, cycling through some older players, but they've got some kids that, this Zari kid has come up and played really well. They've got the young goalie, Wolf. Like, they've got some players there that they're drafting and developing. That's who's pushing through right now. They need support for those young guys.
All right. I'm playing the role of Bill Belichick. What is my level of concern that my coaching days are over in the NFL?
Whoa.
This might surprise you, but I'm Wade Boggs at the Trop in about 2007 era.
Lightning game?
Yeah, or the Lightning game, even better. Maybe he does a double down, Trop, and
but
then
know
over.
that at the Lightning game, he had 48 pints under his seat on ice.
Which is a significant amount of concern, but not necessarily for him, right? But I actually think it's more than maybe people are thinking. Like, there was this assumption he'd walk right back onto the sidelines in the NFL. Hasn't happened. You leave for a year. Who's to say, like, I think he'll want back in? Maybe he will decide, you know what, this media thing's not so bad. Maybe it's not so bad not having to scout all the time or deal with players all the time and got all the money in the world. I got the legacy. And the further you get out of the game, especially as an older guy, the game passes you by in terms of the way that they look at you, and clearly something happened here where there were 8 vacancies and no one picked Bill Belichick. So again, I think it's a larger concern than maybe people are making it out to be.
Yeah.
That he may not coach again.
Yeah, they might be just game over, man, where it's like you did your thing, you won a bunch, but you're too controlling, you want too much control of the operation. And no owner and no general manager these days are going to give you those controls, so don't even think about it.
Exactly. Like, I don't see a GM doing it because a GM will not want to share the table with Belichick.
No, and Belichick seems like the kind of guy that would go to the owner and say, get this GM out of here.
Exactly. I think it's going to have to be an owner that's, like, desperate, that believes they have enough to win and has admired Belichick, right? That clearly already had a coach, hired an incumbent coach that, goes south for them this year. But a GM, I don't think they're going to hire him because they don't want to deal with him.
But don't you think it's an owner that's hands off? Like, he's been around Bobby Kraft. I mean, I don't know how hands-on Bobby Kraft is, but Kraft trusted him. So it was like, you go, you put together a program, do what you want. Mm-hmm. Look at the guy in Dallas, Jerry Jones. That's not going to work because Jerry Jones has got his fingers in the pie. Can you imagine Jerry Jones trying to tell Belichick how to set up a defense?
No.
Get the hell out of the room.
Yeah.
They write the checks.
Exactly.
That's what he'd
It was
say.
never going to work down there. Jones isn't hiring Belichick, and Belichick would freak with Jones doing pressers and all that. He doesn't want that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think there's legit concern. Wade Boggs, Tampa game, maybe double shot over to the Trop in the afternoon, catch a Rays game. You're playing the role of Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, what is your level of concern that now more than ever you have to carry the PGA Tour?
Ooh.
Play it.
You can never, ever ask me to stop drinking.
And the reason I'm going to say that is because and this is no disrespect to any golfer that's atop the leaderboard, but I think the casual golf fan, they want to see Jordan Spieth It's pretty sad that I'm trying to think of who's left.
Scheffler, Rory, JT.
Scheffler, Rory, JT. Like, we're talking about 10 guys they want to see up there on the leaderboard, and go through the winners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
no, it's Pavon, it's Wyndham Clark.
Wyndham Clark's a U.S.
holes.
Open champion. I get it, but it was 54 holes.
Yeah.
But the thing with Tiger, which puts me at universes beyond, play it, is this guy, we don't even know if he can walk.
Well, I mean, he's
God
playing...
forbid, he's going to show up to Riv, and I'm going to guarantee this right now, okay? He's going to show up to Riv, and he's going to miss the cut. Because I don't care who this guy has been in the past. You can't not play golf and then show up at Riv and make the cut the way his body operates now. It's impossible. He ain't doing it this time. So he's going to miss the cut, and then he's just a figurehead that's handing out the trophy at the end of the tournament.
Listen, they have to be... I'm sure they wanted him to accept a no-cut 80-player signature event for the Genesis, right? But he has been adamant. It's his tournament. He wants a fuller field. He wants a cut. I think they do the same thing with the Memorial and Jack Nicklaus, same thing at Bay Hill, Arnold Palmer. Like, they want the historical version of the PGA Tour, which I can understand why, and I have a lot of time for that, and I appreciate that, and it should happen. But here's a scenario where if you're the PGA Tour, you're like, we need Tiger playing on the weekend. Like, you got to have highlights of Tiger. He goes viral more than anybody.
Yes.
Right? Even if it is first group out and he's 15 shots off the pace, if he's playing, there's coverage and there's buzz. And yeah, I mean, there's a real split in the golf world, man. Like, you can say what you want about Liv, and we all feel the same way, but they have really compelling players. Like Rahm and DeChambeau and Koepka and Smith and DJ, like those are like Patrick Reed. These are interesting guys, and they're names that people are familiar with. Even older guys, Garcia and Westwood and Poulter, and those guys have been around for 25 years.
Yeah,
and they're no longer, lurking around a leaderboard anymore on the PGA Tour.
Dude, just in that instance, Hayes, it's pretty bad. Where I was literally thinking of guys.
Yeah,
it's like there's not that 20 pack where you're like, this is automatic,
Right. Yeah, you get to, Schauffele and Cantlay and Fitzy and Tommy Fleetwood, but Fleetwood's never even won a tournament on the PGA Tour. All right, Noodles, you're playing the state of Arizona, the beautiful state of Arizona.
Yes.
What is your level of concern that the end is near for hockey in your state?
I've been bullish on this, but I'm going to say play it.
You can never, ever ask me to stop drinking.
We've been doing this dance for 20 years?
Since puck drop.
Since we've been doing this show together anyway.
Okay, so let's say 10 years. But I feel this time they're at a real crossroads. Like it's there's other cities, other situations that are interested, and I think Gary's gotten to a point, or maybe the ownership group has gotten to a point. It's like, okay, this is enough with this nonsense. You either, it's a bad look on the league where they're playing out of a college. I get it. If there was a rink right around the corner and you got to do it for 2 years, there's not. That's not the case. So I think at some point it's coming to a head, and it's either you got to make it happen or we're moving on. So I think there should be a Nick Cage type of thought process around it.
Yeah, I want to believe that too, Noodles, but with this market in particular, Gary Bettman has been very adamant that it can work, that it will work. They're likely going to return to Atlanta, and in Atlanta, he's telling everyone it's going to be a new rink, new ownership, different vibe. He's been very committed, and I guess I'll believe it when I see it. But It does seem like Salt Lake is ready to go or close to it.
But they said they don't want the Coyotes.
No, exactly. You know what they want, and I don't blame them. They want Vegas. They want a team that is immediately a great team. They don't want a team that hasn't made the playoffs in years, and they don't want that. And I don't think the other owners want it either, because expansion money is more than relocation money. Generally, I don't know what the price tag on that will be. But it's complicated when you relocate a team and you take their history and their staff, and it's sticky. And yeah, I think in Salt Lake, I don't even know if they're ready to go in Salt Lake. Like, this isn't going to happen overnight. Clearly, Arizona, the Coyotes are going to play the rest of the year down there.
Yeah.
But their ownership is not stable. They're literally playing at a university, and the PA is annoyed. And
I love how you're just so emphatic. Like it is. It's awful.
Just a fact. Just a fact.
I've been there. I've called 2 games there. It's a great facility. But it's a college facility. It's literally
a college band, and you can get dogs. It's dogs for $1.50.
Well, yeah, there's beer and
cards.
Yeah, it's the setup is an unbelievable junior college setup.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's the NHL.
Exactly. I'm sure the Sun Devils love playing there. It's great.
They do. Yeah.
I'm sure they do. But does Connor McDavid like playing there? Probably not.
Yeah.
All right, I'm playing the role of Niners head coach Kyle Shanahan. What is my level of concern that if I lose the Super Bowl, I will officially be labeled as a coach that cannot win the big game? Play it.
You can never, ever ask me to stop drinking.
A lot of Nick Cage this week. We have some weeks where it's all pints on the patio. We haven't had one pint on the patio. There's an immense concern with the roles we're playing
immense
this
concern,
week.
and then right under that is Wade Boggs at a Lightning game.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
45 beer or whatever
right.
it was.
Maybe a Bushwood in there, mixing in tall boys and, having a great night. But I think this is a discussion that is going to be had leading up to the game and certainly after the game. That Kyle Shanahan, because everyone's pointing to Brock Purdy, but who made the decision to put in Brock Purdy? It was Shanahan. Who made the decision during the week of the Super Bowl to admit that he was kicking tires on Tom Brady, right? Like it's his operation. I know John Lynch is the GM. Kyle Shanahan runs the show there, and he's a great coach, but he's a great regular season coach right now. And they've got a ton of talent. They're a favorite going into this game. They're playing the same guys they lost to 5 years ago. Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, etc. And I think this is mandatory he gets this win, or it's just going to hang over him. And, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. He'll clearly return to San Francisco. But we had Ross Tucker on an hour ago, and he brought up a good point. It was like Andy Reid at the end of the Philly days, right? You might get an owner in there in a year or two saying, you can get me to the dance, but you can't get me over the top. Right.
Yeah.
And he was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta when they were up 28-3. And that's not his problem. He's not the head coach there. But still, they took their foot off the gas in the second half. Brady got back in. He owns a part of that. They've already lost the Super Bowl once to the Chiefs. If they lose again, that's going to be his reputation. I think there's a ton on the line here for Kyle Shanahan. A lot on the line.
Yeah.
So, Nick Cage. A lot of Nick Cage.
Yeah.
I wonder what that guy out in the Sphere in Vegas is thinking right now.
Have they got that
Nick
guy?
Cage.
They got to shoot him down.
I don't know what he's
activist. Well, I'm just seeing online. He's got a GoPro on, and he's some activist trying to make a statement. So
he's climbing the Sphere.
What statement is it, though, if he comes crashing down to his own death?
Yeah. Well, you don't want that to happen. I think
obviously, you put one of those crawl up a sphere with no plan of attack, and you see the movies where people you got to practice that type of thing.
Well,
this guy's just wheeling up it.
I think you remember the olden days where the firefighters would have the giant trampoline at the bottom. Somebody jumps off, you catch them or whatever. I don't know what they're gonna have to do.
But how
with
do you
this
do
guy.
that with a sphere? You can't jump off the top. You're gonna hit the thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're probably going to. I don't know what they're going to do.
Helicopter and drag him out, but he should be arrested and tased and arrested. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's just goofy stuff. Completely stupid. But it's Vegas. It's the Sphere, and it's Super Bowl week, and all eyes are on Vegas. And I'm sure there's some Nick Cage activity going on there this week. That was the source of Nick Cage, right? Making things happen in Vegas. Yeah. So there you go. Role play level of concern. We love it. Brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From touchdowns to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beer is always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. Jake Delhomme coming up in about 45 minutes, and Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider, in 20 minutes. Leafs and Raptors both in action tonight. We'll keep teeing those up. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Darren Dreger, Jake Delhomme still to come. Leafs in action, Raptors in action tonight. A lot of the media access, is now over here with the players and the coaches down at Super Bowl 58 in Vegas. But there's more audio coming out the last couple of days. and Brock Purdy got asked a question that was pretty strange, something that was trending online yesterday.
What was it?
All right, let's play it here. This is Brock Purdy being asked about someone that he resembles, a historical figure that he resembles. Go ahead and play it.
Pictures of you and Lee Harvey Oswald circling around the internet right now. People think you two look alike. Did you ever hear that before?
I haven't. That's my first time hearing it. Yeah.
What do you think about that comparison? Physical comparison, obviously.
I don't know.
Like, what do you think he's going to say there? Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald. What a stunning figure. I love that you're comparing me to Lee Harvey Oswald.
When the guy said, "What do you think about that?" I'd just say, "I don't think. I don't think about that."
No comment. Moving on.
It's asinine because you're right. Like Lee Harvey Oswald killed the president.
Killed Kennedy.
Killed Kennedy. Like it's ridiculous. It's like, yes, he actually does look a little bit like him.
The thing is, he really does.
He really does.
He does have a striking resemblance to Lee Harvey Oswald. But I love the journalist has to catch himself as if we don't know you're talking about resembling the looks. He's like, looks like him, though. Not actually like Lee Harvey Oswald.
No, like not act like him.
Yeah,
like,
we know Brock
get
Purdy's not an assassin. Like, thank you for asking the question and clarifying. But Lee Harvey Oswald. I couldn't imagine going into that room with that, thinking that's a question I got to get off my chest.
It would all depend what kind of mood I was in. I would, like, if I wasn't in the mood, I'd just be like, no comment, next.
Yeah.
Right.
I just thought I wouldn't have time for, there's a lot of time by yourself now for the players. Like, they might have walkthroughs, video, final preparations, but that's a lot of downtime before game time, man. Crazy. Like, just the nerves and thinking about the game and when you're anxious about something, you're just like, let's get to it when it's days away. I can't imagine the wait for that Super Bowl for kickoff.
You're trying to stay busy, so I guarantee you if there's downtime, you're in Vegas, like you are going to try and find like movie theaters and shows and stuff to do. But if you're a high profile person, you can't be just sitting in a movie theater. If you're Patrick Mahomes, you're not just going to a 3:00 movie by yourself. Like, you've got to figure out things where you can do where you don't get the fanfare. But, maybe it's a private table. You go and just play blackjack or $10 tables, even if you're a multimillionaire.
I don't think they're even allowed to do that, though, Noodles. Like, the players, they are not allowed to gamble. They don't want them in casinos. That's why they're staying half an hour off the strip. Like, the NFL has issued, I believe, those rules. Like, they prohibit players from even stepping foot in a casino.
I know, but it's Vegas. Like, in Vegas, you can gamble at the airport. You can gamble anywhere. Like, it's tough because, you're not. It's not like he's laying bets on his game. He's just trying to kill time. Like,
I know you're preaching to the choir. It seems ridiculous they couldn't sit at a slot machine and kill an hour if they wanted to, but I guess they can. And that wasn't the only one. I guess there was, I believe, a German media member who decided to ask Andy Reid a question about the conspiracy theory. We're really heavy on conspiracy theories here with Lee Harvey Oswald, the Kennedy assassination, and now it's the whole Swift and Kelsey stuff. Here was a back and forth with Andy Reid and a journalist down in Vegas.
Question from Germany. Yes. As you said before, times have changed a lot. The internet, mobile phones. What do you say about the conspiracies that have popped up concerning Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, like some kind of Republican conspiracies, that you guys made it into the Super Bowl to actually secretly re-elect or help re-elect President Biden?
That's way out of my league. Very similar to me speaking German.
I love Andy Reid. He's like, what am I supposed to say to that?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we're here because it's a giant conspiracy to get Joe Biden reelected.
I did see that trending online where they call her a Democrat plant or whatever, like she's telling the youngsters to vote, and obviously Kelsey's the Pfizer representative. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it just now it's politics, right? Like,
it just like there's certain conspiracies that over time, again, the Kennedy assassination is one that is almost from day one. People like I don't know about that one.
Doesn't add up there. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I don't think the Ravens decided to lose at home, and the Bills and the Dolphins, they're all in it to get Joe Biden, reelected. If that were to ever happen, can we get that up here? Like, can we get something going on with the Leafs? Can we get a conspiracy going to get them?
But the people that come up with
final?
that, do they understand in sports? Like, that just can't happen. Like, it just.
Yeah.
Someone catches wind of that. It's so stupid to think that could ever be possible.
I know.
To say that this, like, so many people would have, you couldn't keep it under wraps. It's so dumb.
Well, and you'd also have to pick a different team. The Chiefs are a dynasty. Like, if the Panthers were in a Super Bowl, I'd be like,
maybe you'd think about it.
Maybe something's going on here. The Bears, if the Bears were in the Super Bowl, I'd be like, I don't know, man. Maybe. The Chiefs, like, all they do, they won literally the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys. Let's figure this out. All right, final hour coming up. Darren Dreger, Jake Delhomme will join us. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.